Advocacy and partnerships. Scott has leveraged national platforms to advance local efforts. As co-chair of Mayors Against Illegal, he advises on prevention, including collaborating with the White House under former President. Is a great example of like lowering the rate in Baltimore. I've talked about this briefly. A big part of that was obviously training programs for at-risk youths and also after-school programs in general. That's it. There's a solution for this, okay? Especially when you come across like youth crime, which is what started this process in DC to begin with. Like, kids need something to do. That's it. They're kids, man. They're kids. They're kids. They're literally kids. When you're 15 years old, you're a child, okay? Your brain hasn't developed. And they just need something to do. And if they don't have anything and they're poor and they have, access to weapons, they're just going to do crazy shit. It's that simple. It's literally, it sounds crazy. It sounds crazy when I explain it like this, where people are like, what do you mean? Like, you look at the Kia boys, right? Like, Tommy G has done extensive reporting on this stuff. He'll go to like some of the most like underserved, impoverished neighborhoods that are primarily black. Okay. And he'll interview these kids like that steal Kias with regular frequency, and they're just like joyrided and shit. And it's incredibly dangerous. Those kids, I can't believe like how people get mad when I say this kind of shit because they want me to like engage in heavily racialized, like aggressive language when talking about these children. But it's the same. They're no different than like white kids from rich neighborhoods. Okay. As a matter of fact, they have more reason because they have less options than white kids in rich neighborhoods that engage in similar kinds of like ass behavior. Okay. If they had parks, if they had tournaments like sporting events and things of that nature, then they wouldn't be doing this shit. There's still obviously always going to be people that want to break the rules and do crazy stuff. You know, they're children, but children have a lot of energy. You have to put that energy into good use. You have to get them invested in a future. If they don't have any sort of future, if they know that they have no option, then of course they're going to do crazy shit. And that's how Brandon Scott was able to lower that rate in Baltimore, as a matter of fact. Comprehensive Prevention Program 2021. Shortly after taking office, Scott released Baltimore's first ever comprehensive prevention program, multi-year strategy. There's some issues that I have with this program. It's like, obviously, it relies on cops a lot and heavy surveillance too. But he developed this with resident input to address holistically. The plan treats crime as a public health crisis rather than solely law enforcement issue, emphasizing prevention, intervention, and enforcement. The key components are targeted interventions for high-risk individuals, as I talked about before, which identifies and supports those most likely to be involved in through outreach, social services, and job opportunities. Okay? Community engagement, collaborating with neighborhoods to build trust and provide resources like trauma-informed care and victim support programs, data-driven metrics, regular tracking of progress, which has shown results such as 66% decrease in shooting victims and 31% drop in aggravated assaults in target areas by 2024. The plan has been updated and expanded in Scott's second term, with public safety listed as one of the top 5 core pillars guiding this admin. Is sometimes something as simple as literally opening the parks at night and throwing like basketball tournaments and shit like that. I'm not even joking. After school programs are so successful in eradicating youth crime. It is insane. It is so hard for us to comprehend what the circumstances look like when you are born into abject poverty in one of the wealthiest nations on the planet. When you go to school and there's like 45 kids to one classroom, you can't even understand what's going on. Okay, you can't pay attention, and you have nowhere to go. You got nothing. You have nothing. You have no future. You have nowhere to go. And then, like, you know, older people in your vicinity are leading you down this other path. And you think, all right, well, these guys have cool shit. I want cool shit. I want nice things. I'll just do the things that they're doing. Sometimes it's that simple. Unless the city installs double rims, man. Yeah. I push back. I went to a parochial high school with a bunch of other rich brat white kids, and even my school had a small band of boys who went around stealing cars, radios for the thrill. I don't think it even needs to be desperation. Kids are dumb and are going to go around. Poverty makes it worse, though. Yes. Obviously, the way that like rich, dumb white kids and the crimes that they engage in for the thrill of it is obviously also seen differently than the way that black kids or even worse types of crime. I don't disagree with you at all on this. I've said this as well. Idle hands are devil's tools is what my mom would say. Yeah, for sure. It's something so solvable too. It's crazy. It's so incredibly solvable. That's what sucks about it. But that's what I loved about the back to school drive that they were doing and the different programs that exist in places like this, and like specifically Southside Chicago, where if you were to offer a decent future to the next generation, they're not going to choose to do shit. It's that simple. There's obviously a heavy racialized component to this in the way that like broader society looks at crime when black teenagers are doing it versus crime when white teenagers are doing it. And it's very difficult to explain to people that sometimes refuse to understand this. It's kind of like Angel Reese or LeBron James or what's the guy's name? The football player, Deion Sanders' son, Shador. Like, do they sometimes engage in heated moments? For sure. Okay. But the way that broader society looks at their behavior is different than how they would perceive a white athlete in a similar circumstance. Because the hyper focus on it comes from a little bit of, I don't know how else to describe it. I know that people get real mad, but they get more scrutiny than a white athlete would. A white athlete would in similar circumstances. This doesn't mean that they're like perfect. I'm not saying that they're perfect. Make no mistake. I'm not saying that they are perfect. I'm saying that like most athletes do up shit. Okay. There's a lot of athletes that do crazy shit. The difference, however, is that sometimes high-profile black athletes get additional scrutiny, and the reason for why they get additional scrutiny for the same type of shit that they engage in, that other athletes engage in as well, is because of the fact that they're like visible, loud, and black. Draymond Green, the angry black man. Okay, let's not take it that far. Okay, I'm not going to defend Draymond Green here on the virtue of anti-black. You've gone too far. Okay, pull back a little bit. Draymond Green does deserve the smoke that he gets. That's crazy. He literally went to Israel and shot with IDF snipers. Okay, he's also crazy, and he's playing karate ball. Anyway, I'm not even going to get into that. That's crazy. Shot with snipers in basketball or shot rifles? No, like sniper rifle. What about SGA foul baiting versus when Luka does it? That could be one aspect of it. Sure. Look. My point is, I use that as an example because it's like, it's one that like, it's an example that like a lot of people kind of understand. Okay. The reason why I'm bringing that up is because like, it's not like the people that I just gave you, the people I just use as examples haven't done anything wrong. They have, but so has every other athlete. You know what I mean? Like, but the hyper focus on these athletes in particular, I think sometimes come from the fact that they're black. That's why they become like a point of like a contentious point to defend or to support even. And it's very hard to explain. It's very hard to explain because most people will just say, well, look at this and that. Like, look at Angel Reese. Like, she's loud. She's brash. You know, she deserves it. Why are you trying to defend Angel Reese? I'm not even saying that, right? I'm not even saying that they don't have negative qualities to their persona that they've crafted. They do. But it's just the extra attention that they receive that other people would not receive under similar circumstances. That is the racialized component, right? And the reason why I'm using celebrities is because this is like one of the more visible aspects, but you know, this happens to every person, right? This happens to black people all the time. This happens to brown people all the time. This happens to trans people all the time. Like there is extra scrutiny if you're not, there is always going to be extra scrutiny to like all the things that you're doing if you're not like a straight white dude. This doesn't mean that straight white dudes aren't scrutinized. It's just that this dynamic means that you get hyper focused on in a way that just kind of smells weird, you know, in a way that feels kind of strange, okay? In a way that is, I don't know, in a way that feels like there's extra attention on the things that you're doing, okay? It's something that people should always consider in the back of their minds. If you're a white person and you're doing this, you know, you should think, like, do I actually get mad at this person because of like what they did, or like is it normal for me to hyper scrutinize this person? Like, is there some other reason why I'm like hyper focusing on this person? Why am I bringing this up? The reason why I'm bringing this up is because crime is just crime. It's the same crime when black people do it. It's the same crime when white people do it. And obviously, black youths statistically have a higher likelihood of being born into an environment where they are most likely going to have less options, less career options, less educational options, and therefore they are more likely to engage in criminal behavior for that reason. But it's not any different than like white children in similar circumstances, but they're hyper scrutinized because they're black. And this presents a real issue in terms of finding an adequate solution, because the solution here is not to over police these neighborhoods. The solution is to actually offer additional resources to these neighborhoods, these communities. That's it. But we're not interested in doing that. We're not interested in doing that at all. Group reduction strategy, which focuses on group-related e.g. gangs or crews, by offering individuals a choice: accept social services and support to exit lifestyles, or face swift enforcement if they continue. Initially piloted in select districts, the program was expanded citywide in 2025, including in the Southern District, following early successes. Scott has publicly credited GVRS for ongoing crime reductions, noting its role in lowering to levels not seen in 50 years by mid-2025. Baltimore Mayor Brandon Scott brought the murder rate down to 62% so far this year. How? Focus on youth and equitable development. Drawing from his own experiences growing up in Baltimore's Park Heights neighborhood, Scott has prioritized youth services to prevent crime at its roots. This includes investments in after-school programs. Oh my God, how shocking. Mentorship and job training to steer young people away from addressing juvenile repeat offenders through targeted interventions while acknowledging the need for accountability without over-criminalization. His administration also ties crime reduction to broader equity goals, such as neighborhood development and clean communities, aiming to reduce underlying factors like poverty and disinvestment. Advocacy and partnerships. Scott has leveraged national platforms to advance local efforts. As co-chair of Mayors Against Illegal, he advises on prevention, including collaborating with the White House under former President Biden. He has pushed for sustained funding for victim support programs, criticizing federal custody grants that aid organizations like Victim Connect and Survivors.org. Partnerships with community organizations and law enforcement have been emphasized, leading to Baltimore dropping off U.S.'s news list of the 25 most dangerous cities for the first time in years. Measurable outcomes and ongoing efforts. By July 2025, Scott announced continued historic reductions in crime, with their lowest in 5 decades. In 2023, the city recorded 262,636 non-fatal shootings, down significantly from prior years. While satisfied with progress, Scott has stated that he is not complacent, continuing to expand programs like GVRS and advocate for comprehensive strategies. Some note that factors like changes in prosecution under State's Attorney Ivan Bates also play a role, but Scott's administration highlights the plan's multifaceted, non-punitive elements as a key to sustainable change. We ask ourselves all the time, like, what's happening with young men? What's happening with young men? Why are they so reactionary? Why are they so reactionary? And when we're talking about that, we're usually talking about white men, right? We're talking about white boys. And the reason why even white boys are experiencing more reactionary thoughts and more reactionary attitudes than ever before is also for the same reason, because they also don't think that society is going to give them a leg up or offer them a decent future. So when you shut off, yes, I said even white boys, as in the in-group that is supposed to be the most sheltered from the negative impact. Yes, in a white supremacist society, the in-group is not supposed to experience these sorts of negative consequences. But the reason why